The first thing that you need to be aware of in any application that is dealing with nonlinear editing, including AVID, you have to have all the drives connected in order for the computer, when it starts up, know what it is dealing with. Therefore, when I double click on my Media Composer icon, Windows or Mac, doesn't matter, left double click should open up the application, and it will give you two things. It will identify its version and flavor. The version is, in this case, 2022.7, and the flavor is Ultimate. The Ultimate includes a whole bunch of activated Symphony option, News Cutter, Phrase Finder, Script Sync. I have some pre-cut stories that will be hopefully helpful to you guys. And the pre-cut stories are found in the project selection opening. The project selection opening also gives you a place where you can create new projects. The new projects are created by clicking on the new project icon. And a new project icon, you can define that you have multiple PAL, NTSC, 128720, basic high definition, P progressive, and you can also have the high definition 1920, 1080, and you have versions of progressive, interlaced. You can also go up to 2K. 4K has 4 flavors, 8K and 16K. And then you have something called Ultra HD, which by definition is the height and the width of the 1920 is double. So at that point, you have 3840, 2160. Let's just double check that. In America, we use 2997. Look at the number, 3840 by 2160. So the raster size is 3840 pixels by 2160. I do have some pre-cut projects, as I said. I'm going to pick one of those. And before I move along, I would like to introduce you to my user setting. The user profile is an important element of the AVID ecosystem where you are able to save shortcuts and you can save templates and things of that sort that are specific to you. And I'll show you how that can be either altered, changed, or saved. So in this case, I'm going to using my predetermined or preset user profile. If you want to start a new one, you can always activate drop down and say, create a new one. When you do a new one, that means that you're going to default everything to how the factory presets were. So sometimes you run into trouble and you have issues where things are kind of glitchy and it's corrupted. You create a new user profile and you can start from scratch. In this scenario, I'm using an existing project. The existing project is called MC110. And if I double click on it, it should open up and it should show me the entire interface on one page. AVID generally was a two-page, two-monitor environment, and it is still in professional facilities. But as the technology moves along, a lot of people were coming over to AVID and they were really requesting a single monitor. In this case, the single monitor worked out well for us because in Zoom transmission, we can only transmit one monitor. So the default window by definition is the upper right-hand corner is an icon which says it's the regular edit. So there's also a color setting. And things should change, and they do. And there is a effects where you can manipulate things, and then you go into audio. These are known as workspaces, and these are the default workspaces. So the default workspace that I'm working on is called the edit workspace. And the question obviously is how to get things into the system. You, by definition, should know where your material is, meaning the camera original. So if you have camera original, I'm gonna now go into an area where I can grab stuff from. It physically doesn't really matter where it is as long as the ecosystem recognizes it. So in this scenario, I have footage from a environment. It is going to be, let's say, stolen from somebody else. I'm stealing assets from a different application. And here are the assets I'm going to steal. The assets I'm going to steal are MPEG-4 clips, and these MPEG-4 clips are watchable, usable. Here's the interesting thing. As technology moved on, some of the things that were usable by AVID are now not usable directly. So AVID has two different flavors to manipulate material. Links it, which means it connects it directly to the camera original, or in this case on the hard drive, or imports it. If the linking works, then you are okay. And then you can always make that link material MXF, which is AVID's proprietary compression. The reason why we link for demonstration purposes is much faster because I don't need to spend time to translate camera speak into MXF, which is what AVID speak is, like ProRes in Premiere or other applications. So in this case, I'm going to use a number of these shots, and I'm going to show you how the linking works. By definition, I know where the material is. Yes, I'm going to open up a brand new bin in the environment that I am in. Bin is the storage environment. Bin is the place where you can store things. So whatever I had in the record monitor, in this case, I have something that is in the record monitor. That was the promo. I'm going to get back to it. Upper left-hand corner of that environment, when I say environment, the record monitor, the source monitor, those are the terms that you use. The timeline shows me the footage. I scroll around, you can see things, but there's not much movement because it's blurred. So if I take the blur off and I don't see the blur, now I can see the shots. I can see what is going on here. So step one, I'm going to get the things out of my record monitor to clear things up by saying, hello, click on it. Hello, where is it? Oh, I don't see the name. There we go. Upper right-hand corner of the window. Clear the monitor, clear the menu. So now I have a clean environment to work with, and I will now show you the concept of how you can link material. Linking material presumes that you have a place to link into. Therefore, I need to have a new bin. New bin is activated either by File, New Bin, or a keyboard shortcut, which is Command and on the Mac Control and would be on the Windows. So I open up a new one, right click, and I say new bin. So the new bin by definition calls itself the name of the project. I'm going to call it Friday Webinar and AVID. Because that bin is part of the ecosystem, I could actually put it in the part in the September. So the bin is a storage environment. It's not like a folder. Folder is a larger environment. You cannot put a bin inside the bin, but you can put a bin inside a folder. In this scenario, I have a Friday Webinar AVID, and I'm going to call it link, L-I-N-K, link. I'm going to link footage that is just demonstrated minutes ago. So the footage that I'm looking at is this footage that, let's call it, is the camera original. So you take out the cards from the camera and you put it into the ecosystem, plug it in, and now it's recognized. And they are a specific format, what the camera format is. Doesn't really matter what the format is. As long as the computer understands it, this is what you can do with it. You can grab all the clips, holding down Option, Alt on the Windows, and drag it in, and the connection should be made almost instantly. And you can notice that there's a little chain suggesting that these were not imported. They were linked. Select one clip, double click on it, put it into source monitor. Select a clip, put it into source monitor. So you can actually check all your footage by left double clicking and put in the source monitor. You can also click and drag it into the source monitor, and you can see what's going on. The problem I see here is that, first of all, there's a lot of crunched real estate. So in order for me to see what is in this bin, I have to make that bin bigger. So in order for me to make it bigger, I'll tear it off. Holding down nothing, click on the tab of that bin and tear it off. So in this case, now I have the full monitor. Ah, cool. It's a floating bin. Yeah, but I still don't see pictures inside it, which is silly. Let's switch it over to icon view. There we go. And if this icon view is not sufficient, meaning that the pictures are not big enough, click inside the environment, and using Command L, you are increasing the size of those pictures. If I would like to see all of these guys, meaning the clips inside the bin, right-clicking in the bin, the drop-down gives me an option where I can select align and fill, and I'm going to fill the window, and I'm going to fill the window with all those clips. In the default setting, you notice that I have a white wireframe suggesting that I can actually go inside the bin. The reason why you have that is because you can actually see all of these elements inside. And to me, it's practical if I have a lot of stuff. If I don't want to see it, you have a tool to turn it off, which I believe would be click on this drop down and say, hey, turn off the bin map. And the bin map is turned off. Now, increasing the size, which is Control L on the Windows, Command L on the Mac. Let's try it. And Command K makes it smaller. So if it doesn't go higher, that means that that is pretty much exhausting the resolution of the computer. In that scenario, you are able to select shots 1, 2, 3, 4. You can select 1 through 4 from left to right. That basically is a storyboarding, or you can actually do, and AVID does this very well, separate everything that you don't need. Lasso all these guys, I don't need them. I'm not throwing them out from the bin. They are still in the bin, but they are not in the viewing area. I'm going to select all the red hat lady shots. Essentially, this storyboard is also known as the postcard because they are not next to each other, left to right or top to bottom, but they are on top of each other. The benefit clearly is that you can see all of them at the same time. You can also lasso select all of them. And here's a tool that we like to use in AVID. AVID, by definition, if you don't have mark in, mark out, which is selecting a section of a segment, if you are at the beginning of the playhead, it will use and utilize the entire clip. So I need to make sure that I rewind every shot to the first frame. I'm clicking on the home button and clicking on the end button, home, end. Essentially, I am telling each clip to go to the first frame, and the playhead goes to the first frame. If I don't know that, holding Option Alt on a Windows, double click, I have a floating monitor. Oh, cool. If this is enough for me, you can ask me to add marking points on the fly, IO, which is easy. And there is a way to go about that. If you hit the space bar, plays it. And on the fly, you can hit I, 1, 2, 3, oh. So I added marking on the fly. If that marking is going to be activated, I only bring in that portion into the story. In order for me to expedite this session, I need to move along. So I'm going to do a G, clears out any existing. And at that point, I also say that any existing in and outs that I had on these, if I hit G, those are all cleared out. Hit home, goes to the first frame, and watch how the story assembly is easy. Drag it into the timeline, and you created a brand new sequence. Brand new sequence is done, and by definition, AVID calls those sequences untitled. Where did it go? Into the same bin where the material is. If you're confused by looking at things in picture view, in icon view, you can always switch it back to text view. So now you can see I have an untitled. By definition, when AVID creates a sequence, it is always called untitled. We'll call it Friday, and I'll call the time of the day 1:22 p.m. New York time. So because I made some changes to that environment, the Command S would be a good idea, which saves everything. And here's the reason why I'm saying that. If the computer crashes, if you did not make this change, this will not be registered. So if you want to look at some settings, Command, comma, and usually if you take some classes with us, we go through this in detail. In the user settings, you have an option where the bin setting gives you the autosave option. So the autosave option in this case would allow you to save every 15 minutes. If you're doing serious work, it is not a bad idea to, when you made enough of the edits, you don't wait for that 15-minute cycle, you force save it so the computer remembers that you assembled it. Here's a couple of things in the timeline. If you have done this before, it's going to be boring. If you haven't, welcome to the class of making things interesting. The source monitor is irrelevant now because I put the story together. Let's say the story is these shots. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, how do I see that there's 6 shots? Well, I don't if I don't have the track height. So click inside the timeline environment and performing the same thing that I did earlier in the bin. Command L increases the track height. Generally, in the new versions, starting from 2019, the time code is put in between video and audio tracks. Some people don't like it. So if you don't like it, you grab the audio track and move it above the time code, or grab the time code and bring it below audio. Holding Option, that will allow you to do that. So rearranging the tracks, now you have the time code below. Time code is a cool tool to work with, especially if you use markers and things like that. So, but in this scenario, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots. The cool thing about AVID is that it is a broadcast environment, has been around for over 30 years, and they have a number of tools that help you identifying what you need to know. Do I know how long these clips are? No idea. Let's tell the computer to show it to us. No marking, no nothing. Go to the bottom left-hand corner, and there is a tool that adjusts and visually alters everything that you see in the timeline. In this case, I'm looking for the clip information that tells me the duration of the clip. If I don't want to see anything else, in this case, I'm going to turn off everything else, which in this case is the name, and I see the number. It is 5:13, 9:21, 10:01. You see I wear glasses, which suggests that my eyesight is not as good as it should be. So if I want to have a larger font, this is the coolest thing because not every editing environment deals with this. I want to make the environment here bigger. Well, the track is the one I dealt already with, right? So that's bigger. What about saying that the fonts will be bigger? That's a different deal. So in the Windows dropdown, in the environment that I am in, I'm going to change the fonts to, let's say, go crazy 24. So now you can see in that environment. This is the coolest thing ever. You have a number of tools that I would like to introduce to you. I have some presets, and these presets are very specific to how I edit. The preset that I have is a tool that is called top, and the other one is called tail. The top and tail are absolutely necessary for me to be an efficient and good editor. So if I want to have all my shots cut down to 3 seconds, a couple of choices. One choice is hit the space bar 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 and cut off and hope that my counting was 3 seconds. But if I want to be specific, go to the beginning, click in the right window and using the numeric keypad of the keyboard, the numeric keypad, not the alphabetic, the numeric. And the numeric keypad, I type in plus 300, suggesting that I'm going to move the playhead down 3 seconds and I'm going to cut off everything past that environment. Move on to the next one, plus 300, cut it down. So I'm cutting down all the clips to 3 seconds and you can see that the 3 seconds are adjusted. Plus 300, the playhead moves down 3 seconds and I cut it down. Clearly, you can assign these buttons to the keyboard. If you open up your settings and in the user settings, you activate your keyboard settings. What is it? Alphabetic, A, B, C, D, K, keyboard. There we go. Here's my active keyboard. So if you come to AVID, these buttons are the default buttons that do things. What is the thing that I have to do? Well, apparently I did assign F3 to cut the head and the tail is F4. God, I can use those. Get out of it. Go back to the timeline. Park on where I parked on, and I believe F4 was the one button that I'm going to pick and takes it off. Plus 300. I'm going to finish this up because I'm going to show you how fast and efficient it can be if you do it right. Plus 300, move it on. F4, plus 300, and move it on. Why am I typing plus? Because I want to move the playhead to the right, and it 300 stands for 3 seconds and 00 frames. There we go. So I cut it down into story, and here's my timing. Very easy, very simple to work with. Generally, in the storytelling, in documentaries, and I see it in features also, at the beginning, they want to fade up from black. This tool that I have, and AVID is very good on that, is called head fade. Head fade is an effect that is specifically calculating where the shot begins, and the playhead positioning identifies where the head fade is going to stop. Because I'm bringing up audio, so the fading is also bringing up the volume of the audio. Therefore, the head fade does exactly what it's supposed to do. Fades up. And at the end, obviously, what would be the tool? Well, the tool I'm referring to is at the end, I'm going to fade out, which is going to be tail fade. And the tail fade suggests that I'm going to go to the end of the story, manually move my playhead, the blue playhead, move my playhead. And if I go back a bit, I can say I'm going to do tail fade. If I have a specific instruction, or you give me specific instruction to be, let's say, fade out for 1 second and 12 frames, minus 1, 1, 2, 1 second and 12 frames. So I went back 112, and from that point, I'm going to fade out, fade tail, and the fade tail button fades it out. Let's check it out. Done. Cool. Very easy. When you're ready to spit it out, you have a couple of choices. One choice, obviously, is right-click in the record monitor and export. And in the export, you define how are you going to distribute it, how you're going to make money off of it, how you're going to put it onto either social media or anything else. And you name it, obviously, in this case. You define where it's going to go. That, for example, goes into the drive that I picked. And in the options, you define that you're going to send it out as QuickTime Movie, MPEG-4, and things of that sort. So this is where, when we train the class, we spend some time, and you can actually send it out, whatever size. And when you're done with it, you can actually save it, renders it out, and it goes out as you would define where to. Because I have some pre-cut stories, let me show you some tools that you might like. These are trim tools that I showed it just recently to some HBO and NBC people, and they were like really happy about it. We've been having contracts with these agencies for like over 20 years. So we train them, and we train Swedish television, we train international agencies. Point is that trimming is the biggest tool and the biggest thing that you need to work with essentially when you are doing adjustment. In sports, it is almost irreplaceable. So let me show you something that might get your juices flowing as a creating person, and you're going to learn on it by watching the video, or you're going to come back and take some classes. So I'm going to clear the monitor, clear the menu, and go into a pre-cut story. Webinar sequences has a bin, and in the bin I have multiple ones. In order for me to get real estate managed, I'm going to close every of these bins open. You see it looks like a drawer pulled out of the cabinet. So I'm going to right click on all of them by selecting them and say not delete, but close them so I eliminate clutter. And when I go and open up my MC September sequences, I have a number of sequences to work with. So here it is. I open up a existing project, which I called one webinar opening, and I double click on it. It should go into the timeline. There we go. This particular one has music in it, and I'm going to now ask you, you're going to text me, you're going to use the chat, please. At least one of you has to answer to me. I'm going to play it out and see if music comes in, because for this particular exercise, you should hear the music on your end. So my story is that I have a material that I need to cut to music, or I need to cut to a beat. In order for me to get beats, I did the scenario setup where I have a version of that sequence, and that sequence has material that is visible. Here's the monitoring with the blur, and monitoring with the title. So in this case, I'm going to turn off the monitoring, and here is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. I would like to have the beats matched up. And in this case, if the music is too loud, I brought it down minus 15 decibels. Command / shows the entire timeline, and I'm going to play it out for you. You're going to hear beats. So you understand that there's some beats going on, and my intention and my job, as according to what I was hired, let's say the scenario, is to cut to the beats. And in order for me to cut to beat, I would like to duplicate this sequence, which is Command D, duplicate, Control D on the Windows, and I'm going to call it for you guys only. Command S would be a good choice. And whatever I had on that particular sequence, in this case, the blur and the title is irrelevant because it's a duplicate of it. So I'm going to kill it. How do you kill it? I go into a segment mode, which in this case is Shift A, and select the video track 3, take it off, and video track 2, take it off. So I'm only stuck with and left with the video track 1. Let's find out what the shots are. The shots are jumping shots. This is in Nashville, I believe, and it is guys jumping and doing this parkour thing, if you're familiar with that concept of sport. In order for me to kind of visualize it, instead of looking at the waveforms, I'm going to show you a tool that you can benefit from. I'm going to turn off everything, which means that I'm going to do a Shift Command A, all the tracks are turned off, and just turn on the timecode track. And I told you earlier about the importance of this timecode track significance. I'm going to add markers to that so I know exactly where the beats are. So as I'm playing, I'm going to hit markers, and I have no idea where the marker buttons are. And on the keyboard, I'm going to look for them. And generally, in other applications, the marker is M. Not in AVID, it's not the default. So I wanted to make sure that I don't mess with the default trimming, which is what the AVID M is. I had applied the marker to Shift M. So I hold down Shift M when I add the markers. I will play the sequence, and I will make sure that when I hit the Shift M, it continuously adds it to the time code. Let's see if I'm correct. So I added a whole bunch of markers, and you can see them two different ways. I can see them below and above the timeline. My numbers are too big, so they are kind of interfering. So I'm going to remember earlier I did this, go into the setting, and I will maybe turn off the numbers. Yeah, the numbers turning off is not going to help me. It's not going to make them smaller. How do you make them smaller? Stay in the environment. When I say environment, I'm referring to the timeline. The Windows drop down should give me an option, set the font. I'm going to set the fonts back to 12. So now I don't have to. Still in the dark, I don't see those colors properly. So go into the tools drop down, open up your markers. And in markers, if I select all the markers, which in this case I did, and I would like to change them to different color, more visible, like a light blue or something, Well, I have limited colors. That's the only issue. So in this case, if I change the color, I have, let's say, the cyan is a nice one. There we go. So they're all cyan. If they are not bright enough, I can change them to something else. Select again. This is my last one, and I need to move on because time is running out. So I'm going to change them to yellow. And there we go. So now I can see them. With this, I now know exactly where my edits should be. Definitely, I don't need to have video 2 and 3. So if I have 2 and 3 selected, hit delete, the computer is going to ask me, do I want to delete that? Yes. The track color to me is not pretty. It's not that nice as I should be. So go into the bottom left-hand corner, activate the track color tool. I'm going to make it nice orangish. There we go. The audio tracks are going to be maybe bluish, light blue. Pick the color, track color. If I don't like the existing colors, I can pick from existing preset colors that are crayon or spectrum or anything like that, or color wheel. I like the crayons because they're consistent. So I'm going to do a light turquoise color. So now it comes in. The waveform to me is important to understand where it is, but I can actually hear it. So I don't need to see the waveform. Turning the waveform on and off, you can actually select the tool on or off. So you can actually save it. Generally, when you have the waveform analyzer, it uses up lots of RAM to recreate that. So to me, that's a time saver, energy saver if I don't have them on, but it's your choice. I'm going to turn it off, go back into the track control panel, and now I'm going to make the edits match those beats. So on that beat, I need to move the meeting point of the second and first shot. So there are two different tools. I'm going to go and lasso it, and that goes into trim mode. And by definition, because I use a dual roller trim, which is last trim of the shot 1, first trim of the shot 2, I can move manually and say, hey, the meeting point will be right at that beat. If I go further down, grab the second shot, move it around, and I'm actually editing as I speak and live. And there we go. I have 3 edits already done. The 4th one is going to be probably a problem because I might not have enough footage. You know, I do have enough. I'm lucky. And the 5th one, let's see if I run into trouble here. No, I'm good. So far, I actually moved the shots in such a sequence that when I get out of trim, which is click someplace else or hit U, watch the edit on a big screen. Command S is not a bad idea. Command Shift F shows a full screen, and see if on your end comes out that the cuts are changing on the beat. Okay, so that's the basic principle of how you use the timing. Now, if I have a scenario, like in this case, I might have a scenario where my beat is not going to be oh, it's actually still working. There we go. I have enough footage, which means that I have enough handles. Handles is a element of it. There we go. I don't have enough handles. That means that the footage that I'm trying to drag did roll off all the material. So I'm going to go on the left side. I'm going to drag it and mess up the whole story altogether, like I just did. Oh, there we go. I can do, this is known as single roller trim, also known as ripple trim. It deletes and alters the duration of the timeline. So in this scenario, I have a whole bunch of these shots that are done. If I'm done with the trim mode, hit U, you're out of trim mode. Now the editing is done. To music, that's the whole point of this exercise. Command that saves things, Command Shift F full screen, and here it comes. Now, the problem I'm facing is that in some shots, there's nothing going on. Like, for example, in this shot, nothing is happening. The camera is shaking. So my producer tell me, listen, what's going on here? It's just stupid. You're just showing me a shaking shot. Why don't you show me a guy jumping or doing something? So here are 2 different ways of approaching it. My scenario is going to be the one that is the traditional. I park on a shot, and I ask the computer, can you find me the original shot where this came from? You right-click on the V1, and it should identify that it comes from someplace. And it says subclip or master clip, sub-master clip. There we go. And it puts it into the source monitor. Essentially, it tells me that on the left side, you look at that clip, and the right side, your sequence. So this is where, when I say this left window, that's where this frame came from. So if I move further down, oh, there we go. There's a shot, like the guy jumps across it. There we go. Maybe that's what I want to use. I want to use that the guy jumps there, meaning that he's going to be in here and using this frame where he just hits the concrete. 2 choices. One choice is, that's where I'm going to bring it in from. That's the one marking. Go into the shot back, and you hit T. T is selecting in and out points. The T makes a clear differentiation between the beginning of that segment where I don't have anything visible, and the ending of it. Therefore, what I have is line up the mark in with the mark in, and if I overwrite just the picture, I changed it and my story is different. The problem is that the guy is not hitting the ground on that beat. Okay, we'll deal with that as we go along, but let's find out other shot. Same scenario, I don't see anything. Remember how I did that? Right click on the video track and find a reference, and it says master clip. There we go. We need to get the guy kind of drop on the ground somewhere there, just before he drops on the ground. Okay, but I'm wasting too much time looking for things and finding things. So this is where the AVID says I can do something magical. Like what? We call it sliding things. Okay, how? Please watch this. I'm going to go into trim mode. By definition, remember trim mode, we did that. And in the trim mode, holding down Shift, I go into a 4-window environment. The 4-window environment is a slip trim in this case, which suggests that I'm going to find the beginning of the inside and the ending of the inside. The outside one is the previous shot, the inside first frame, and the inside last frame is visible there. So I'm going to move until I find something usable. How? Well, I'm in trim mode, go in there and go move around and go find the stuff that the guy comes down. You see I'm moving around. See that white wireframe? That means that I'm moving a shot behind it. This is known as slipping the shot. And I want to have at the beginning, the guy drop down on the beat. Beginning. There we go. So if I play it, this is what you got. Okay, but it is dropping on a beat. How about if I have a scenario where the longer shot and I actually have him drop on the beat? Okay, let's fix that. And after trim mode, this is what my tool is. I'm going to mess up things a bit. I'm going to stretch out things, or I push things away, like in this case. No, that's not the one. I need to push it away. The single roll is so it is pushing it away, meaning extending it. There we go. So I extend the shot. I'm going to also go to the beginning of it and expose it more, drag it to the left side. So I expose it so the guy comes in earlier. And now, because the meeting point is the wrong space, I'm going to get the meeting point earlier. This is what I'm recommending, and this is what I'm suggesting. Hear the beat. That's the beat where I want to have him drop. So on that beat, I need him already on the ground. And this is where AVID comes up with a tool that you probably never heard of. If you know it, I'm glad you are here. If you didn't, I'm glad you're here. The tool is using the concept of the trimming, but instead of using it trimming with the 4-window, it uses the concept that look at the image. And because I need to explain to you what's going on, I'm going to add some markers to it so you can see how the footage moves. If you park on the frame that the beat needs to be at, and you know that the waveform tells me so, here's the waveform telling me, there's the beat, exactly. So that's where I need to have the guy hitting the ground on that note. That's the beat. And if I want to have it further, sure. Doesn't matter, you pick one. I'm going to pick the second one. Right there on the beat. So in this case, the guy has to be on the ground. And the tool I'm going to use is the trim tool. When I say trim tool, I'm referring to these keyboard shortcuts M, comma, period, /. Those are trim buttons. By definition, I'm moving the image around a roller. And that means that if I move, watch it, if I move to the right, okay, that goes wrong. If I move to the left, look at it. He hits the ground about there. So if I play it, you notice that I did it. Now let's get another shot. I'm going to cut off everything that I have here, and I'm going to probably be using this tool, the tail. Watch it. I'm going to get out of here and use the tail tool. The next scenario is going to be a little bit more complicated, but it is going to be easier because you will see it much better. So watch it. When the guy starts singing, right there somewhere, right there. I don't see the waveform. If I want to see the waveform, I park on it and I zoom in, which is Command /. Here's where he starts singing. If I want to hear the scrubbing, I can turn the scrubber on, which is something like this. There we go. Scrubber is on. Somewhere here. So let's agree that that is the place where I want to bring in a shot. You notice that the shot begins with a beginning and ending. And I need to find shot that is actually action. So I'm going to have a shot that is an action shot. Here's the action shot I'm looking for. Imagine that the guy is running and he's going to be hitting this ledge there. There we go. That's it. The feet going to be there. So that is the place. Do notice that I don't have any mark in. I don't have any mark out, but I have a tool under the source monitor called Replace Edit. The presumption is that I line up the playhead of the clip. Doesn't matter what the video is in. It's irrelevant. I'm matching to the beat of the guy saying, where the guy sings right here somewhere. And if I match the green playhead, which I did, with the blue playhead, no mark in, no mark out, the computer, by hitting the replace edit, will calculate how much before the green comes in here and how much after the green comes in here. Let's see if I'm correct. Done. Let's watch it. On the part. Okay, let's do one more. Maybe this one. You notice that the guy crosses. Yeah, he touches the ground touches the concrete. You see that touches the concrete? The feet touch that concrete. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. Jumps. And he lands on the concrete, which is exactly there. There we go. So in this case, because I want to make sure that I'm using the same duration, I'm going to add an edit point, and the duration between the beginning and ending is the same. The only thing is that instead of having this shot, I'm going to replace it on video 2. Watch it. Replacement is green playhead matches up. The blue playhead fills up that spot by using the blue. And if I did my job right. There's nothing else like it. Command S, saving it. We're winding down. Here's a full screen. Look at one shot. Command Shift F. Nobody does this like this. Boom, packing up. And if you want to monitor the lower track, same scenario, same situation, Command Shift F. Maybe it's not that dramatic, but I think that it is a definite proof that you understand how this tool can help you. Right now, my time is running out, so I appreciate you sitting with us. This was a AVID webinar that was on the 2022.7, and I was using some trimming and matching issues and cutting onto a beat. Therefore, when I'm done with this, Command S, Command Q, quits out of it. We are Future Media Concept. There's a number of other seminars and webinars we do. You sign up, you get these free webinars probably every month, depending on what the product is. So I appreciate you sitting with us. Thank you for your time. The show is over. Go in peace. I'll see you maybe in the future. And I thank you very much for your attention. Good luck to you guys. Thank you for attending.